Beneath the neatly paved streets and towering skyscrapers of our modern cities lies a forgotten chapter of history, a chapter filled with grand empires, lost knowledge, and catastrophic events that have been buried, quite literally, beneath layers of earth and obscurity. At the heart of this mystery is the enigmatic empire of Tartaria and the cataclysmic event known as the Great Mud Flood, a mysterious deluge that some claim rewrote the very fabric of our world. For decades, this story has lingered at the fringes of academic study and popular imagination, dismissed as myth or conspiracy. But could there be more to this tale than meets the eye? Historians have long acknowledged the existence of Tartary, a vast region that once spanned much of Eurasia, stretching from the remote steppes of Siberia to the bustling cities of Europe. Maps from as recently as the 18th and 19th centuries depict this sprawling kingdom, labeled simply as Tartary, with boundaries that defy modern geopolitical divisions. Yet, despite its prominence on maps, official history tells us little about Tartaria's culture, governance, or people. Instead, the empire is dismissed as a vaguely defined, semi-barbaric land, inhabited by nomads and tribes with little impact on world events. But for those who dare to dig deeper, both figuratively and literally, the truth about Tartaria suggests something far more grandiose and technologically advanced than the accepted narrative. The empire's cities, some claim, were filled with architectural wonders, grand cathedrals, intricate domes, and spires that reached toward the heavens. These structures bore a striking resemblance to the ancient architecture of Rome, Constantinople, and other great cities of old, suggesting a level of sophistication that history seems reluctant to acknowledge. Could Tartaria have been an empire rivaling the great civilizations of antiquity? And if so, why has its story been erased from our collective memory? The answers, some believe, lie buried beneath the mud, literally. One of the most controversial and perplexing theories surrounding Tartaria is that of the Great Mud Flood, an event that proponents describe as a catastrophic inundation of mud and earth that submerged entire cities in the mid-19th century. Unlike traditional floods of water, this deluge buried buildings up to their second or third stories, turning grand entrances into basement windows and majestic thoroughfares into sunken alleyways. Photographs from cities across the world, St. Petersburg, Paris, New York, and even smaller, lesser-known towns, show striking similarities. Buildings partially buried, windows peaking just above ground level, and doorways that now lead to nowhere. Official explanations often attribute these oddities to poor urban planning, shifting soil, or a natural buildup of sediment over time. But to the believers in the mudflood theory, these images are evidence of a deliberate erasure of a lost world, a coordinated act to rewrite history and bury the achievements of Tartaria. While mainstream academics dismiss the mudflood as a fringe theory, with little basis in fact, its proponents argue that the event was not just a natural disaster, but a deliberate and targeted act of destruction. Theories abound. Some suggest it was a divine judgment reminiscent of biblical floods, while others see the hand of powerful elites working to erase inconvenient histories. Still others invoke the presence of darker forces, the work of Skotos, the adversary of light, whose biblical role as the great deceiver might suggest a spiritual war against the forgotten empire. Adding to the intrigue is the curious timing of the late 19th and early 20th century World's Fairs, which sprang up in major cities around the globe. These expositions featured breathtaking architecture, grand palaces, soaring domes, and intricate statues that seemed to appear overnight. Officially, these buildings were said to be temporary, constructed hastily for the duration of the fairs, and then dismantled or destroyed. But the sheer scale and complexity of these structures have led many to question the official story. Could these buildings have been relics of Tartaria, unearthed and repurposed to serve as showcases of human achievement, only to be torn down to prevent further scrutiny? Photographs from fairs in Chicago, Paris, and San Francisco depict opulent pavilions and monuments that seem almost out of place for their supposed time, exhibiting a style and craftsmanship that harkens back to an era long before industrial machines and mass production. To some, these fairs were less a celebration of progress and more an act of concealment, a way to parade the lost treasures of Tartaria in plain sight while rewriting the narrative to fit the victors of history. The question remains, why was Tartaria erased? Why would an empire so vast and influential be reduced to little more than a vague label on outdated maps? Some point to geopolitical motives, suggesting that powerful nations sought to eliminate Tartaria from history to bolster their own claims of supremacy and control. Russia, China, and the burgeoning powers of Europe all had stakes in the lands once labeled as Tartary, and the elimination of its history conveniently paved the way for their own expansions. Others see a more spiritual battle at play, drawing parallels to biblical narratives of fallen empires, corrupted by pride and struck down by divine judgment. Tartaria's fall, some argue, was not just political or environmental, but a cosmic punishment, echoing the stories of Babel, Sodom, and Gomorrah. The hidden hand of Skotos, the adversary, might have played a role, conspiring with earthly powers to ensure that the truth of Tartaria would remain buried, and that future generations would never learn of a world that once stood in defiance of the darkness. For those who seek the truth, evidence of the mud flood and the buried past of Tartaria can be found all around us, hiding in plain sight. The telltale signs of sunken buildings, half-buried windows, and strangely elevated streets can be seen in cities worldwide. Old photographs and city plans reveal changes in street levels that cannot be easily explained by conventional urban development. Furthermore, architectural anomalies abound, structures that seem too grand, too advanced, and too out of place for their supposed time periods. Many of these buildings, particularly in Eastern Europe and Russia, exhibit ornate detailing and advanced construction techniques that hint at a lost knowledge, one that official history has failed to acknowledge. The theory of Tartaria and the mud flood challenges our understanding of history, urging us to question what has been taught and what has been lost. It suggests that our past is far more complex than the linear, neatly packaged narrative presented in textbooks. It invites us to consider that the victors of history may have done more than just win battles. They may have rewritten the entire story. Whether or not one subscribes to the theories of Tartaria and the Great Mud Flood, the questions they raise are not easily dismissed. Why do we find so many architectural remnants that seem at odds with their official origins? Why were whole cities redesigned and rebuilt at such great expense in the wake of these unexplained events? And why has the story of an empire that once spanned continents been relegated to the dustbin of history? As the world continues to uncover and rediscover its hidden past, the story of Tartaria serves as a stark reminder. History is written by the powerful, but the truth has a way of resurfacing, even if it takes centuries. Perhaps like the buried cities of old, the truth of Tartaria will one day emerge from beneath the layers of mud and misinformation, standing as a testament to the resilience of memory and the enduring struggle between light and darkness. Until then, the lost empire of Tartaria remains a tantalizing mystery, buried but not forgotten.